Good morning. Welcome to everyone on this program from wherever you're joining us today. I'm Kurt Lee. I'm the director of the President's Associates program here at the University of Oklahoma Foundation. Thanks for spending time with us today. And we're so grateful to bring you this special first installment of the President's Associates Sooner Athletics virtual series. Since 1979, President's Associates and its wonderful supporters have been on the leading edge of supporting academic excellence here at OU. Over those 42 years, Associates have provided countless opportunities for students through scholarships, including study abroad funding, student organization support. Associates donors also invest in faculty excellence through presidential professorships, which reward those performing top quality teaching and top quality research. Wherever the needs and the opportunities are greatest, President's Associates donors allow us to be right there to help. For those of us that are current associates, I'm incredibly grateful for your generous support. For those who are not associates or have considered joining, there's never been a better time to get involved in the great work going on here at our university. After this program, a giving link will be provided in the follow-up email where you can join or renew your gift. We have a special guest with you today. We're so thankful that he's taken the time out of his busy schedule to join us. I'm going to give him a brief introduction here, and then we'll get to meet the man himself, Coach Porter Moser. One of the most successful coaches of the past half decade, Coach Moser has spent his college playing career at Creighton, where he also began his path in coaching as a graduate assistant. He left Creighton for an assistant coach role at Texas A&M, followed by additional stops at Wisconsin-Milwaukee, back to Texas A&M, and then as an assistant at Arkansas Little Rock for 2 years before his promotion to head coach in 2000. In 3 seasons with the Trojans, Coach Moser took over a program that went 4-24 during the season prior to his hiring and went 18-11 just 1 year later. He steered the Trojans to a 54-34 overall record before heading to Illinois State in 2003. Following his 4 years at Illinois State, Coach worked under the legendary Rick Majerus at St. Louis University as an assistant coach from 2007 to 2011. He then returned to a head coaching role by being named Loyola University Chicago's head coach during the 2011-2012 season. In his 10 seasons at Loyola, Coach Moser assembled an 888-141 record, building the Rambler program into national prominence. Over the last 4 seasons at Loyola, Moser totaled a record of 99-36, tied for 10th most wins by a Division I head coach since the start of the 17-18 season. In that time, his teams claimed the following: 3 regular season conference titles, 6 NCAA tournament wins, 2 Sweet 16 berths, including the now legendary 2018 Final Four run, in which his team had wins over Miami, Tennessee, Nevada, and Kansas State. Most recently, Coach led his Ramblers to a 26-5 record in a Missouri Valley Conference regular season and tournament title. His 8-seed Ramblers upset number 1 seed Illinois in the second round to advance to his second Sweet 16 since 2018. He was named 15th head coach in OU men's basketball history on April 3rd, 2021 by Vice President and Director of Athletics, Joe Castiglione. He brings to his own squad of new Sooners to Norman, including his wife Megan and their 4 children. We're incredibly excited for the upcoming season and honored that he's joined our President's Associates program today. Without further ado, we're excited to have him on screen with us and live with us today, Coach Porter Moser. Coach, welcome.
Thanks, Kurt. Appreciate being here.
Well, thanks for taking the time with us, Coach. We know you're busy. We know you have all kinds of stuff going on. Tell us about your journey. Tell us about, how did you get into coaching? What was your playing career like, and what made you want to be a basketball coach?
Well, before I get into that, Kurt, this is great for me to be here with the President Associates. One of the things that when I took this job, I got thrown into, and we'll talk about that, I'm sure, in the next several minutes about the transfer portal and how we had to build an entire team. But I just got thrown into having to build a team and then recruiting and so many things that to get to know the people in Norman and the people that are so passionate about this school, I'm excited about. I've really started to do that more and more since in these last several weeks. But it's great to be here and learning about the President Associates through Kurt these last couple days. Amazing, and we're grateful for all you do for Oklahoma. So Kurt, my journey, and to everybody, a little bit about myself. I was born and raised in Naperville, Illinois. I went to Bennett Academy, Catholic school in the western suburbs. And then I went to play my college basketball and get my business degree at Creighton University. And I played for a coach named Tony Baroni. And my recruiting was real easy coming out of high school. The three coaches that recruited me the hardest was Tony Baroni, Dick Fick, and Randall Handel. I can't make that up. So my recruiting was kind of organized with those people that were recruiting me. But Coach Baroni was a huge impact on my life. Probably one of my biggest mentors, my first big mentor outside of my father. But we went to Creighton, and it was in last place, and we ended up having the first time in school history 20 or more wins 3 years in a row. First time in Creighton history. 2 NCAA tournaments, 2 Missouri Valley championships. And it was probably during my sophomore, junior year that I knew I wanted to coach. I think everybody has these illusions of grandeur that you want to play in the NBA. My vision of not being able to came a little early. But it's funny. You ask everybody when you're recruiting on your team, you want to go to the NBA? Yeah, I want to go to the NBA. The percentages show that it's very, very hard. So I decided to get into coaching. My college coach is the reason why I got into coaching, Tony Baroni. He ran the program with amazing love and accountability. He was very hard on us. We had such a family atmosphere that was what I was, that's what I grew into. That's all I knew was this incredibly close team, close program, everybody pulling for each other. But, the other interesting thing is you hear people say old school, new school, players. Hey, you can't have any old school players. You can't coach them hard. I believe that's not true. I think you can coach. I think young kids deep down want to be held accountable, want to be pushed. It's just they have to know trust and love is in the room. And that is what I so much learned from Tony Baroni, is he was so hard on us, held us accountable. But when the practice was over, there wasn't a day I didn't know he loved us and cared for us. And ironically, today's his birthday. He passed away 2 years ago, and I got a long text from Mrs. Baroni today. But that is, he was the reason why I got into coaching. So I got done, and my family in Naperville, my father was the CEO of Moser Enterprises, Moser Lumber. My 3 older siblings, I'm the youngest of 4, all got into his company, into his business. And it was assumed I was going to too. And I'll never forget my father. He was this huge figure, the CEO. And he was at my graduation. He's like, well, Porter, you're going to come work at Moser? And I'm like, no, Dad, I want to coach. He's like, how much are you going to make? And I'm like, well, actually, I am going to volunteer my first year, and then I'm going to bartend at night to make some money. And he said something so profound to me that impacted me and the way I raised my own kids. And he just said to me, he goes, is it what you're passionate about? And I said, absolutely. It's what I want to do. And he says, then you got to go for it. He goes, because what I do is my passion. It doesn't have to be yours. So I volunteered that first year, and I bartended at night. And then at the end of the year, Coach Baroni got the Texas A&M job. And he leapfrogged me over 2 assistants, and I was the only one he brought with him to Texas A&M. And that's where I began my coaching journey. I spent 6 great years there. I met my wife there, and I have 4 beautiful kids. My daughter Jordan is going to walk on the women's team. She transferred from Loyola, which is another sidebar. You'll notice I'll be all over the map today. So, my daughter was on the Loyola women's team. And when we flew in for the press conference, she was like, oh my God, what a place this is. I want to come here. And then she came back, and her teammates and all went to Florida. And she's like, I'm going to stay at Florida. And here's the lesson in recruiting that you always have to understand. Never underestimate the power of the mother in the recruiting process. She spent a week with my mom or my wife after that. And she's like, I'm going to Oklahoma. So she's here on the team there. And I have 2 here. My son's going to walk on as a freshman. And I have 2 in high school that's going to be, one's going to be a freshman and one's going to be a junior at Norman North. I became a head coach after Texas A&M at Arkansas Little Rock. We turned that program around, and it was the largest turnaround in the history of that conference. And then I got the Illinois State job. It was in the league I played in. It was a state school I grew up. At this time, my father had passed. My mother was sick, and I'm like, I get closer to her. And this is the part of my journey that I always feel interesting. It's who I am. Is when Kurt was reading my bio, he talked about the accolades at the different stops, and then he mentioned Illinois State, and he says, and then 4 years later, he went to go work for the Rick Majerus. So people brush over that, but I don't, because so much of what I believe as a leader and success is you learn from things that don't go well for you. I went to Illinois State. It was last place. I intentionally signed a 7-year contract because it was so bad, and the league was at it. They were getting 4 teams in the NCAA tournament. On year 4, we had all underclassmen. We won 17 games. We were going to be preseason picked the next year, and I had my 3rd athletic director in 4 years, and he bought out my last year of my contract, knowing we were going to be in first place the following year. And it was very, very tough on me. It was very, very hard to go through that. But God has a plan. My faith, everything has a plan. And I got into this competitive reinvention of where I was going. Instead of hating my setback, I just dove into loving my comeback. And I went to work for the legendary Rick Majerus. And that is a whole nother Zoom for everybody. So if we all get another time to meet, I wrote a book. And my first book that I thought I was going to write was going to be working for Rick Majerus, because the amazing stories, I started a journal. But I wrote a book, not that I'm having this little ploy for my book, but I'll talk about this later. But in my time with Rick, I learned so much. Sitting in the war room with him, having his mind twist and turn on how to game plan, it's just been nothing like it. He wrote a book, My Life on a Napkin. There's never been a book title more apropos for anybody than My Life on a Napkin with Rick Majerus. We'd be recruiting. We'd be driving along, and all of a sudden we'd pull over at Culver's. You know, Ricky would either go to a Greasy Spoon or a 5-star restaurant, nothing in between. And we'd be sitting there X and Oing on napkins and everything, or we'd be white linen cloths, be ruining the linen cloths, X and Oing. And then we'd leave Culver's after an hour. We'd drive down, and he was the only guy that I know that could stop at Culver's twice on a 2-hour recruiting trip. So we'd pull into Culver's again. But I learned so much from him, and we built a team up that went to the NCAA tournament 3 years. And then I was fortunate enough to get Loyola of Chicago, back in my hometown. But again, here was another program that was rock bottom. In the previous 30 years at Loyola, they had 27 losing seasons. No championships, no tournament appearances, nothing. They had 27 losing seasons. And we just were intentional about who we were going to recruit. I think the younger you are in whatever profession you are, you're so much focused on the trajectory, so much focused on, I want to get here, I got to get there. You are that as a player too. I'm seeing that in the recruiting. They want to, what can I do to get the MBA? Well, let's focus on what's right in front of you first. And that's the way I was getting to Loyola. And the older you get, you're more about the journey. I was about intentional, the people that was going to be on the bus. And I set out to recruit winners, high character guys that were going to go to the certain offense that we were going to run. It was a very skilled offense with spacing. And then we went to the Final Four. We did it with 2-star guys that wanted to win. We had 7 state champions from high school that were on this team, and just blessed to continue to do that with great kids. And this year again, with basically a whole new team. And it was just this culture. And I'll get into the wall behind me and the genesis of that. But this year became crazy. I was in the NCAA bubble. We beat Illinois. There was a lot of jobs opening. And I did about 6 or 7 in the Midwest, and it was crazy. And when we finally lost, I got a call from Joe, and I sat down with Joe Castiglione, and it was just different. It was different talking about the vibe at Oklahoma, about the character, the energy, the culture, doing it the right way. Lon Kruger is someone in the profession that I have respected to the utmost. He does it the right way. Everyone knows that he's a high character person. And I'm like, Lon Kruger was there for 10 years. I mean, this place, and it was just different. And I'm so grateful to be the head coach at Oklahoma and to continue on the great traditions that they've had here. So, Kurt, that's a little bit about my journey and how I got here.
Well, it's incredible. Thanks for sharing that with us. And so now, after all of that journey, that, like you said, trajectory and then journey from Illinois State to, then Loyola Chicago, and then now here to OU. You're here. You've been here for going on 4 months now. How has the transition been, and what are you up to right now? And just talk to us a little bit about what you want the culture of OU basketball to be. What do you want to build upon, and what are you looking forward to most in the near term and in the long term here at OU basketball?
Well, so to your first part about what was, getting here, what would happen, in terms of what I've been up to, this year was like no other. Playing in a pandemic, playing with no fans. In Chicago, we had 0 fans. I know they opened it up here a little bit, but my wife and kids were not allowed to the games at Loyola. Sister Jean wasn't allowed to come to the games. I mean, that was a major thing that happened. She was ticked off. And I'll get into sister too. I almost had sister in the transfer portal, but she decided to stay at Loyola. But then we got to the NCAA bubble. So you went to the NCAA bubble, and that was crazy. And here's just so much about who I am. There were so many things you could complain about at the bubble. No fans, testing every day. You had to go back. You had all the, and my thing is that we were sending to our players is gratitude. Man, be grateful. I mean, it's just how you live your life. Be grateful. We could have the year canceled. Think about that. So to me, it was just this mantra that we had. We were just excited to be there, excited to compete, that we didn't want the season canceled or the NCAA canceled again, that we were playing in it. So we stayed 2 weeks in the bubble because we went to the Sweet 16. And then literally a couple days after that, I was flown down here to Oklahoma, and it's been ever since. So I went from the season to the bubble to here, and haven't really stopped. It was the transfer portal is been crazy. We had to build an entire team. When I got here, almost all of them were in the transfer portal. I know Austin Reeves is going to be in the draft. So we really only had 4 remaining players. So we had to build a Big 12 team. And at that point, we couldn't go out and recruit. So you had to build a Big 12 team through Zoom. So that was a very, very challenging with that. But the kind of program I want to have, I said in my press conference, it's not a rebuild. Even though we're rebuilding the roster, we're not rebuilding the wheel here. I mean, I love what some of the coaches like Patty and Lincoln, they have their hashtag OUDNA. And it's about doing it the right way, winning, holding your standards. So I want that. It's one of the big reasons why I took this job. I left a very, very good, I left a top 25 team. All those guys are back. But I want a chance to be at a place that you can recruit the best players in the country. You have the resource, the facility. You have a league that's going to get multiple bids to a tournament. The Big 12 was the only conference that got 70% of their teams in, which was a huge factor. And just the OU DNA that's the program, and that's what you want to be a part of. In terms of how the type of people and the culture, people saw us the way we played. We were a very connected team at Loyola. Our bench was always hyped. We were sharing the ball, moving the ball. We were the number 1 defensive team in the country. But when I say that, sometimes fans say, when you say you're the number 1 defensive team in the country, fans are like, okay, it's going to be boring. But in the recruiting, we're talking about defense creates offense. We are running. We have this mantra, on the wall. It's one of the many things up here. Win the first 3 steps. Win the first 3 steps. That's a simple thing. When we get a stop, when we get a turnover, we want to win the first 3 steps and go and transition and run in space. And that's so much of what we want. And this culture wall, I'll just tell you the genesis of that. working for Rick Majerus, I told you I journaled. One of his parts of his genius, he was really detail oriented. The way he taught the game, he was a teacher. He just didn't recruit and he was an old school teacher, the way he taught. And he had all these simplistic terms that you wouldn't have to give this big monologue to get your point across. They would learn these little terms and what they would mean. Threw you to the rim, reach for the lights, never be 3 in a row. There's all these little terms that are behind me. So when I got to Loyola, I just threw them up on the wall in the locker room. They were all up on the wall, and I was hoping through like osmosis they would sink in. And it became who we were. And then the kids could start coaching it up. They would just say, hey, jump second. That means don't leave your feet on a shot fake. And we became this unbelievably fundamental team that the guys were buying into. And then it morphed into the bricks. We redid our locker room after the Final Four, and I put each one in a brick because that's the foundation. And then here at OU, the resources are even bigger. Their team here, their graphics team, because when I was at Loyola, after the Final Four, the mantra that was on everything was created by culture, like everything did. And what is culture? Culture is different to everybody. For us, it was our values, our beliefs, our standards that we were going to live by every day. It was going to be every day. And this, when I got here, I didn't want to use the word created because that's, so our graphics team, we traded it to creating our culture. And then they added the Jordan brand as the A. And we built it up. All those things are in bricks. They all have meanings. Every day I'm in here, film room, talking about one or two of them, making them write it down in their books. And we're getting better with it. But that's what I've been up to. The recruiting has been nonstop for me as well. Every day in the month of June, the NCAA opened it back up. Every day in the month of June, we had a recruit on campus or I was out recruiting. And now I'm in the month of July where they let us go out and recruit again. And I'm back here for a couple of days. I work the teams out Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then I leave Thursday through the weekend to go recruiting.
Man, sounds a little bit busy. How do you balance it? I mean, it's one thing to say, you're coming into a new job, a new place, a new program, and then you're building a team. How do you balance that? What's your schedule look like? And then how do you balance that with family? You talk a lot about in different interviews and different outlets about striking the balance. What's your balance look like, Coach?
Kurt, that's the thing that, balance in life you have to work at. You have to be intentional with balance. And you just can't just say, I need balance. I need balance. Just like you are intentionally working on different things, you have to work on balance. And I have to work at it. I am big on building relationships. To me, I just, the people aspect of it, the building the relationships, the energy that you have with people and relationships. And just to share with you just how hard it is, I had to build relationships in the recruiting process to build this team. And it isn't just one phone call. It's serious for each recruit. It's his whole sphere of influence, mom, dad, coach, AU coach, and then multiple times. That's just for him. We had to sign 9 or 10 kids right when we got here. So that was, I wanted to get to know the current 4 guys to build those relationships. I wanted to get to know the people here at Oklahoma. That's been hard to find that time. I wanted former players. I had a nice dinner in Oklahoma City with a bunch of former players, and we're just going to start outreaching with the former players. I got to maintain and build a relationship with my own 4 kids. I have 4 teenagers, and it's huge that I have that father hat on a lot. My wife, we've been married for 24 years, that I continue to balance with that. She has to go through so much. She's literally in Chicago. The movers are packing the stuff. She's by herself doing that. And the movers are taking their stuff right now. But balance is something that is intentional with me because I'm so relationship oriented. And then you start saying not only your current players, your current recruits, but then the class of 22 in the recruiting, class of 23 at a place in the Power 5, you have to be on recruiting these kids as sophomores or you're behind. And that's what happened when I got here. The kids that were in this senior class right now, they've been recruited already for 1.5 years, 2 years. So there's a lot to balance. There's a lot of time spent building relationships, but you have to be intentional with balance in your life.
Well, let's talk about recruiting. It's so much of your life. It's so much of your job. What kind of student athlete are you looking for? You talk a lot about recruiting winners, and that goes in a lot of different facets of the athletic experience. Talk about that a little bit, recruiting winners, what that means, and just the general profile of the student athlete you're looking to bring to OU basketball.
I love recruiting really successful programs. I love recruiting players that have won at a high level. I always kind of my eyes kind of pop out when I look at a highly ranked player and his high school team is 500. And I like guys that have experienced being on that stage. I'm going to share with you a recruiting story. His name's Lucas Williamson. He played at Whitney Young High School. I saw Lucas at the Nike Peach Jam, and I really liked his game. I really liked him. We didn't really have a big need for him. He's a 6'4" guard. He's not a great athlete. He's not going to pop out of the gym and go put his armpit above the rim. But I just liked him. I liked how hard he played. He made shots. But we really weren't recruiting him, but I knew it. So I went into his high school the fall of his going into his senior year because I was recruiting a junior to be. And I went in, and Lucas was on the sideline and came up to me, shook my hand, looked me in the eye, and talked to me and everything. And I just really liked him. I always told him, Lucas, I love your game, man. Just keep working at it. His recruiting was a low Division I recruiting. So then the year went on, and I was kind of had my eye on it because I was recruiting that junior on the team. And the year was over, and they won the state championship. And it was the second time Lucas won one. He won as a freshman. And so I'm just sitting there. I'm like, you know what? Let's bring Lucas up to campus. Let's just walk around with him and show him to see what he has. So he came up. He played with our guys. Our guys were like, man, I like this kid. And his mother told me a story. She said Lucas was a freshman on the varsity team at Whitney Young. He said he was the only person in that class that that won the state championship. So they didn't win it his sophomore, junior. His senior year in 2016, he took the team to the Chicago Cubs parade when they won the World Series. He took the team, organized it, no coaches, and wanted them to sit there and watch a celebration of a championship. And then they played. And then his mother told him we were in the Elite Eight to go downstate. We beat Evanston, who had a really high-ranked player, and she said they're in the Final Four, and they're going to take pictures, and Lucas wouldn't let any of the parents take pictures. She said he wouldn't let him because we're not done yet. They go in, they get to the state championship place, the famous Simeon High School. Simeon was number one in the state, huge favorites, goes into overtime. Whitney Young wins. Lucas has like 34 points, and he's telling all the parents, now you can take the picture. I'm like, this kid's incredible. So I literally offer him a scholarship when she's telling me the story. I said, this is who I want to coach. And I mean, not all recruiting stories are like this, but Lucas was a big part in our freshman, as a freshman in the Final Four. He was our seventh man, made huge shots, huge plays. This year, he was all conference, defensive player of the year, huge part of who we are at Loyola and what we were doing. And it's about the people, the traits they have. And so the kind of people we want. But I will say this, we're able to be involved with a higher level player here. The 3, 4, 5-star kids they all want to play in the top conference. I always fought that at Loyola. They like what we're doing. They like that we win. They like who we are. At the end of the day, they're like, you're in the Missouri Valley. I got that all the time. So we're able to get involved, but I'm not going to bend on those traits. I'm just not. And someone asked me, would you take a 5-star kid? I'd be like, heck yeah, I'd take a 5-star kid. I mean, yeah. Would you take a one-and-done kid? Heck yeah, I would take a one-and-done kid. But now I still want him to be that person that's going to all be about the name on the front of the jersey, pour into getting better, and all that. And I think those guys are out there, and they are, and we're involved with them. And but that's what I want from here, and that's what all the sports are doing. I watched the softball team make their run. Look at the energy they had. Look how connected they were. I went over to football practice with Lincoln when I first got here. The vibe on the football field. I just love that about this place, that you can recruit at a high level and still keep the integrity of all those traits you want to have that OU DNA.
Well, let's talk team a little bit, Coach. We haven't gotten there yet. You've got a season coming up. Man, it feels like it's going to be here before we all know it. What's the composition of the current team? For those of us, some of us on this call are the ones following the recruiting lines on Twitter and other social medias, and others, we'll watch it on TV and watch the games when they're on. So there's a various kind of variety of different knowledges about the current composition of OU basketball. Let's talk about the team, the upcoming season. What are you excited about? What are some of the things that you see happen in the next 6 to 8 months as the season progresses?
Well, the first thing is, I was there at Loyola 10 years, and we stayed old. We stayed old these last 5 or 6 years. I always had 8 or 9 guys returning. I always took a kid and redshirted him, and then he became out, and we just stayed old to where they knew the terminology, they knew the system, and we were older. And always had like 9 guys back. So that's the challenge that I'm going through right now, is that we have 4 returning players, and we had to blend them with 9 new ones. And that's been understandably challenging, because you want to get to know them. You want the terminology, everything is from ground zero. But I'll start with the 4 players that remained from the previous year. Elijah Harkless, tough defender, really working on his shot to increase his scoring. Mo Gibson, gym rat, in the gym nonstop. I mean, he's in here twice a day getting extra shots. And then Jalen Hill. Jalen, to me, is someone who's really improved. I'm hoping really Jalen has a bigger role this year. I thought he had some really nice games at the end of last year. I've been breaking down those tapes. And I think he's a guy that I think is going to have a better year, a more increased role, I should say, with Jalen. I think he's really worked on his body. His body looks great. But all 3 of those kids have been great kids, worked unbelievably hard, and they've taken some ownership on this. And the fact I'm grateful that they stayed, because a lot of the guys, right when you see a coaching change, without even waiting to see who the new coach was, put their name in the portal. And then Rick Asanza, I'll share you a story about him. I walked into Rick, and my neck just went like this. He's 7'1", but he's not. He's athletic 7'1". His weight, and he goes like this. And so I got to work him out for like 3 weeks before the semester ended. And I'll be totally honest, because I was totally honest with him. I didn't see it. How he performed and his work ethic, his conditioning was not at this level. And he only has 1 basket in his career. And I looked at him, and after these workouts, I said, Rick, do you love the game? And we had a long talk when he went home, came back, and he was like, I said, Rick, do you love the game? And he said, yes. I said, well, your actions don't say that. They don't say that. And we were very honest, and I'm being super transparent here, just telling you how it went down. And he's like, well, if I'm not going to play, I'm going to go in the transfer portal. I said, okay. So he went in the transfer portal. So I said to him, and I don't know if any other coach has ever done this in the country, when a kid says he's going to transfer portal, I said, Rick, I get it. You want to play. You didn't play the last 2 years. You want to play. I get it. If you want, you can still work out with the team. I'll coach you. I'll work you. I'll do whatever I can. But I had to be honest with you and tell you that your conditioning, your work ethic doesn't equal what you're saying out of your mouth. So if you want to work, come to practice. So he came. He came. So this started in June, beginning of June. And in the next 4 or 5 weeks, he got in better shape. I was coaching the heck out of him in practice. And he was getting recruited by other schools. And then after about 5 weeks, he walked up to me and he goes, Coach, you changed me. He said, what you said to me, you're on it, changed me. I said, well, Rick, you changed me. You changed my opinion of how you're going to be. I said, you have a chance. You got a real chance. We still got a ways to go. But what you've done in these 5 weeks is you've changed my mind of what I think of you as a player on the court. And he goes, I'm taking my name out of portal if you'll have me. I go, let's go. So he's 7'1" every morning. Every morning he wakes up, gets out of bed, he's 7'1". And he runs, and he's learning to roll. When he rolls and throw a lob, it's like my Nerf hoop on the back of my closet. You jump on your back. He's like this much over the rim. The old mic and drill, when you go like this, my son was laughing. We lowered the goal to like 8 feet. And my 14-year-old goes, this is Rick doing the mic and drill. His wrists are above the rim. And so I'm excited to see where Rick goes. He's got 4 years left. He's working, he's getting better. And so I'm excited to see his role this year. We signed 9, a couple, the Groves brothers from Eastern Washington, Tanner and Jacob Groves, 1'6'9", 1'6'8". They're doing really well. We signed a veteran point guard. We got 2 high school point guards in Bijan Cortez and Austin Mason, but we really didn't, because Mo and Elijah really aren't point guards. So we said we have to get a veteran point guard to compete this year. And we probably really hit a home run for what was out there in terms of veteran point guards. Jordan Goldwire started at Duke, defensive player, all ACC defense, led Duke in assists. He just didn't have a big scoring role. They said, Jordan, go throw it to Zion. Jordan, go throw it to Cam. I mean, they always had that. So he's looking for a bigger scoring role, and you think he's going to give it to us. Elite defender, veteran with that. So we signed another transfer from Oklahoma, Ethan Shagwire. He's from here in Oklahoma, played at SMU, averaged 10 a game, 6'9", gives us some size in there. And then AK is a junior college player, another 6'9" guy. He hasn't played Division I, but he's got 3 years left. Phenomenal kid, work ethic. And then we had those 3 freshmen, Bijan Cortez from Kingfisher, state champion, CJ Nolan from a great program, and Austin Mason. So that's just a quick overview of our team. And just coming together is the first step. We can't talk about November. I told our guys, our first part is this June, July, August, being here, getting better, coming together. That's the first step of our journey.
Well, when you talk about, as you just said, the season starts in November. And November, I mean, that feels close. And knowing how hard these
16 days for practice.
Not that anybody's counting, right? Exactly. Knowing how hard these student athletes are working on the court, day in and day out, in the gym, on the court, everywhere else. They also, as a President's Associates program, we talk about, supporting the academic side of the house as well. How do you advise them to manage that balance of what it takes at this level to be successful on the court, and also know that you also have to be successful in the classroom? What's your word to them? What's your message?
The time management, the intentionality of balance. You have your academic world, and your basketball world should be here. I don't want them to have no social world. It just can't be above or even with the other 2. They got to have some balance with it. I think what we do and what everybody in the country does that in the last 15 years really helps with that is that you're allowed to have them and work with them in the summer. So our guys are taking 6 hours, 2 classes. That goes towards their degree. So our freshmen, they come in, they get acclimated to a couple college classes. They work out, we lift, we do that. So it's not like they get here in September and say, here's 15 academic hours, here's 20 hours a week with basketball. Hey, jump into the deep end of a freezing pool. It isn't. We get a little acclimated in the summer. So our message right now is, I have this mantra that I say, it's, if you put your name on it, smash it. I tell my kids, if we give you a chore, just don't do it half-heartedly. I was going to say another word, but if you do an assignment, you put your name on a paper, smash it. And we always talked about that at Loyola. Like, if your name's on something, smash it. And that's been a mantra here so far. I've really been pleased with our grades right now, our workouts. But you got to talk about time management from the get-go with these young guys, and academics and their basketball world or their sports world, and then social world. You want it, because you don't want them to be hermits, but you just got to balance it all.
Right. And that's such a challenge. It feels like every generation we say that the challenges and the distractions and the demands on these student athletes has never been greater. It feels like every generation says that about the next generation. Another factor on that, which we have some questions about, is how does name, image, and likeness, how does that factor into recruiting? And then it's just an increasing demand, or coaches might call it something else. How does that play into your calculus, either dealing with student athletes, on the court, off the court, in their academic life, all of it?
So for those, I know a lot of people are following what name, images, and likeness is, but for those that you don't, the NCAA started a rule, and it's been in effect July 1, that the student athletes can make money on their name, image, and likeness. Now, there's a lot of, guardrails that we're trying to sort out, like what can and you can't do. But it's been overdue. There's been such amount of money that the NCAA's made and with the young people. And so I think it's overdue. It's overdue. It's a good thing that they're starting. We just got to make sure the guardrails that we figure out the best way to do this, that it isn't the Wild Wild West. But I think it's a really good thing that some of these kids student athletes can make money based on that. What the message you talk to them is information is power. Learn the rules. Don't do something that's against the rules that's going to get you caught. Learn the best way to do it, the best way to run your business. I mean, you're running a little small business with this. These kids are getting agents to help them market themselves. Here comes balance. You want to make money, but you also want to be a pro. What's your balance? The best way to make money is to get better at your craft, get better at that. So there's some balance. They have to continue and not spend too much, and that's education on that. But it's here to stay. It's real. It's in the recruiting process. Never before have I ever been asked this many questions in the first 2 or 3 questions of what is that look like at Oklahoma? What are we be able to do that? That is a real thing for here to stay. That what these kids that they can do, the sponsorships they get in their community with name, image, and likeness, and it's legal. I think it's information is power for the outside people who are doing the sponsorships and the inside people that the guardrails are set up. But it's real, it's here, it's overdue. We just got to make sure, just like tweaking, making sure it's going in the right direction to benefit everybody.
Well, and Coach, I'm going to ask one last question before we get into audience questions as well, which is, what would you like to see from kind of the Sooner Nation, the fans? How do you want to engage the new fan base here at OU? And what are some things that you would invite fans of OU basketball, new and old, to get involved with your program?
I was when I got to Loyola. I could have at the media timeout at like the 16-minute mark, I could have gone out to half court, teed up my driver, hit a golf ball, and it would have bounced around like one of those old putt-putts. It would have hit the stands and not hit anybody. We drew like 150 people. And I just constantly, everywhere I went into the dorms, I went into fraternities, sororities, everywhere, saying, you make a difference packing the house. You make a difference with the energy. You make a difference being there. And I really was set out. I really wanted to have a home court advantage. Our home court record the last 4 years is insane. I mean, we've had, we're I think 35-1 in conference at home the last 4 years. We're selling out every game. It was a great atmosphere when it was sold out compared to half full or quarter full. The energy, the experience people are having, and that's what I've heard. Lloyd Noble is to pack it every night. I know there's certain games that's packed, but every single night have that energy to where it makes a difference for the student athletes when they run out of the tunnel and they see that. It makes a difference. So I really want to, I'm going to be everywhere. People that know Porter Moser, the people that don't soon will. And that goes with the student body. I'm going to be out and about. I'm going to be into speaking, and I already have a number of speaking engagements lined up to go to different student organizations here in the fall. But I just think that when you have a packed house, it becomes a competitive advantage. Plus, it means so much for those student athletes to play in that kind of hyped atmosphere.
Well, Coach, we're going to get into some audience questions. I know I can kind of see them filling up in the chat and things. So we're going to throw a few on the board here. The first one is, when a player leaves OU in your program, what lessons do you want them to take with them?
That's just a great question. I had a couple seniors that at their senior banquets have said that mantra that I've said. They said, I'll always take that mantra of, if I put my name on it, I'm going to smash it. If I put my name on something, that it's going to be the best. There's a great podcast with Kurt Warner, the Hall of Fame quarterback. And it talks about how his first year or two, he failed in the NFL and he got sent home. And he had a college coach that told him at Northern Iowa he didn't work hard enough. And that really bothered him. He's like, I didn't really realize I wasn't working hard enough. And then he went, in that year off, he went and worked at a stock shelves at a grocery store. Kurt Warner did. After college, before he really hit it big. And he said, you know what? I was going to be the best stock shelfer there was in that thing. And he goes, it just became who I was. I was going to do it the best. And then the story goes on and on. So I love that lesson when they leave, of putting your name on it, smash it, do the best you can. Don't do something, just getting it finished doesn't mean that you've accomplished it, and do it the best you can do it. I want to create a family. Lon did a great job with former players, and I've heard many stories, and he started embracing the former players. I want the former players to know that they're all welcome, not just in my era. I'm starting that process we have a golf outing coming up. We have former players coming back. Hopefully you're going to be getting the stuff in that golf outing coming back. For instance, Stacey King hasn't been back in a while. I knew Stacey he broadcast the Bulls games. I talked to Stacey. Stacey's on board. We're going to honor him for being in the Oklahoma Basketball Hall of Fame and everything. So Stacey's going to come back. But I love we created this. They had no connection with Loyola when I got there. There was no former players, the alumni base, and we connected them, and they had a lot of pride in it. That's already here at Oklahoma. There's an amazing amount of pride. There's an amazing amount of connectivity. I want to continue that, to know that these players, that they're part of an OU family, that it's a wide stretch. The past is a major part of our future with OU basketball.
All right, we got another one up here. Somebody asked, could you pick 3 sayings on your culture wall and explain them briefly to us?
Right. Here we go. Here we go. I'm going to probably get up for this one. I'm going to be all over the mat. All right. I wish you could be here and just point anyone out. All right. This one's called win the battle of the catch. So win the battle of the catch. That's teams with post players. So everyone always says, win the battle once you caught the ball. But there's 2 battles in post, and that was a big Rick Majerus thing. The first one's win the battle of the catch. Are you going to be real soft and not care and get pushed out and you catch it 12 feet out? Or are you going to be intentional of doing your work early? That's up there. Do your work early and getting down and getting great position. And you won the battle of the catch. Now I caught it, heels right above the block, right into the paint. And now the second battle comes after the catch. So that's win the battle of the catch. Let's see. Gosh, there's so many. Don't rotate uphill. That's a post defense. I'm right here, and the guard's coming down. I got to fake and fade. If I rotate uphill real fast to stop the guard, they just drop it down to the big. Let's see. Don't be 3 in a row. Don't be 3 in a row. That's an offensive spacing term. Like when you drive baseline, the guy rotates up to help. You got to get to the front of the rim so you're not 3 in a row. If a guy drives wing to wing, you got to step up 2 or 3 feet so you're not 3 in a row with defense. Let's see. Threw you to the rim. That's at the end of a drive. At the end of a drive, you have a job to do, and you can't be straight up and down. Your job is to make it a tough 2. He's got to go through you to get to the rim. Guys that leave their feet and the guys go up and under. Guys shot fake. He jumps. He goes on. Your job is he's got to go through you to get to the rim. Then we have one up here, reach for the lights. Referees, I've had them talk to our players. They are taught to see the angle of your hands. If you go like this, even if you don't touch it, if the guy jumps into you, you're getting the foul. So we have a thing, reach for the lights. We were intentional with that. We're in the top 5 every year for fewest fouls. And it's not because we're not tough. It's because you're smart. But we'll do drills, we'll run over, and we'll jump, and we'll have our arms behind our ears, and we'll reach for the lights. That's not a foul. You can beat the crap out of them with your chest, but they don't want you hitting your hands down. So 3 to the rim, reach for the lights. 6 eyes, 6 arms. 6 eyes, 6 arms is a transition D term. All right, when they come down, we got to have a resistance point in transition. Then the big and the wing, the ball's got to see 6 eyes, 6 arms to shrink the floor to stop it. We can go on all day. I love this stuff. This is so you panned me out. So all right, Kurt, you struck me right there. So you were not letting me go any farther.
And Coach, as much as if it were up to me, I would trap you in there for another hour and just say, start at the top, left to right, and let's go over the culture wall and just let's do it. We'd slide you snacks under the window and let you go because this is awesome.
But here's the really cool part about it is, so like if a guy goes for a shot fake and he leaves his feet, you'll hear the guys start to coach it themselves. Hey, jump second, and you'll start to see them coach it up and use these terms, and they're just real simplistic. It's not this huge explanation. It's jump second. All the guys got to say is jump second. They know they went for a shot fake. They jumped first. Kid goes like this. You jumped first. Jumping second means if he jumps for a shot, then you jump second and contest it. And that's just a simple thing. All right, we'll move on.
All right, we got one more question. Time for one more, and it veers toward the serious. As a former Chicago native, and this can be controversial in some circles. Who's the best deep dish in Chicago?
So that is controversial because everyone does it. There's so many good pizza places, and I'm open for suggestions if you want to tell me the best pizza places around here. There's way better barbecue here. There's way better. But I'm still searching for some pizza. But my favorite's Lou Malnati's. Lou Malnati's Pizza. I hired as a GA Rick Malnati's. The Malnati's is run by two brothers. One's a coach and one runs the business. The coach, Rick Malnati, was one of my former assistants. His son played at Northwestern as a walk-on. I hired Tino Malnati as my GA. And it was a great hire because after I hired him, Rick just sent me 10 frozen deep dish Malnati's pizzas. So it was a great hire. But
so there's maybe a little bit of influence there, Coach. I mean,
you what?
Is there a little bit of influence there? A little bit of
I will say that before Rick worked for me, I was a Giordano's guy. I like Giordano's. My kids actually, I shouldn't say this live, but I was a Giordano's guy, and I flipped. I flipped to Malnati's. I love Giordano's, but there's nothing like Malnati's pizza.
Okay. All right. Well, on that bombshell, you have a book, Coach, and we want to mention it briefly. It's All In by Porter Moser. It now has a quick, the new copy actually has now OU men's basketball coach on it. But you wrote this book, Coach. What does it mean to you, and where can they get a copy?
Well, I was approached by the Loyola Jesuit Press to write it after the Final Four, and I just was like, no one's going to want to read a book about my journey, so I was kind of hesitant. And then, I never thought I'd write a book. I'm sure my English teachers at Bennett Academy are still scratching their head that I have a published book. But I'm glad I did it. It was cool to hear my kids' response. To really see some in-depth. It's about my journey. It's about my faith, my energy, my passion, and of that. And it's like I said, I talk about my competitive reinvention. That because you have a setback in your life doesn't mean that has to be your story. That doesn't mean that what has to define you. And I was not going to let what happened to me at Illinois State define who I was. That was not going to be my story. And that's why I'm not ashamed of it. I talk about it all the time. And I know you didn't want to say that when you introduced me. You went over it real quick. And it's 4 years at Loyola thing. But I know what happened. My faith, God had a plan. And but that book just taught my journey. And hopefully someday I'll be able to write the next chapter during my time here at Oklahoma.
Well, we're looking forward to that next chapter, Coach. And as a thank you and as a gracious gift to the people on this call, we have a few copies of All In by Coach, and he's been gracious enough to sign them we're going to give away 3 to some random viewers here on this program today, and also 2 additional to people who choose to give to President's Associates, the first 2 in the next day or 2. So thank you, Coach, for doing that. Any last words, anything you'd like to close with, anything you'd like to leave this group of people with before we take off?
Well, I hope to meet you in person. Trust me, the Zoom, this has been great. Kurt, you guys have been great. But I like the more relational piece. So hopefully we can do this in person someday where I can meet you and talk with you. Thank you for all you do. Just learning about what you do recently. It's awesome. And I just hope to meet you in person. I'm blessed and honored to be the head coach. And I know it's going to be a journey, what we're going to do. But couldn't be more excited to be here. And I look forward to meeting you all in person. And thank you for what you do for Oklahoma University.
Well, thank you, Coach. And thank you so much for your time. we could not be more excited to have you at the helm of OU men's basketball. And we're excited to pack Lloyd Noble Center come November, December, and then on through March. But thank you for your time and enjoy the rest of your week. Stay sane on the recruiting trail. And thanks again, Coach. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Kurt.
That does it for our time here at President's Associates Sooner Speaker Series. Thanks for joining us. Thank you to all who have made this possible. And thank you for being an associate supporter. Please check out the follow-up email that'll go out shortly after this session. It has a bunch of different helpful links. You can check out the OU men's basketball schedule. You can talk about and inquire about season tickets if that's something that you're interested in. And if you're a President's Associate or you're interested in the program, there will be a giving link there as well to join or renew your gift. So I'm Kurt Lee. For all of us here at President's Associates and at the OU Foundation, thank you, enjoy your week, and hope to see you again. Talk soon. Bye.